Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the live stream of the launch for John D Clair's new game, Rolling Heights, on Kickstarter. Woohoo! We have a lot of folks with us today. Josh Wood is here, Luke Petersman is here, John D Clair, the designer, is here, and John Zinser is here. John's camera is off, and I'm actually on this call twice, which is why you see my name, Ryan Dancy, and you see my smiling face. Okay, so here's what's going to happen today. I am going to run the Kickstarter portion of today's festivities. I'm going to launch the project, and then I'm going to work through a little to-do list of tasks that we do when we launch Kickstarters. We've gotten some feedback in the past that people are interested to see what goes on behind the scenes when we start a Kickstarter, and that's what this is. I'm going to focus on the Kickstarter stuff, and the rest of today's panel is going to tell you all kinds of cool things about Rolling Heights. So before I press this super cool button, I'm ready to launch. John Clair, do you want to give us a really quick thumbnail of what Rolling Heights is?
Sure. I think I finally figured out my camera. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
There
you sound better too.
Oh, good. Okay. That might mean my audio is not coming through my headphones. I had to pop open my laptop. Okay. Well, if I sound good, that's fine. It's either the headphones or not. Yeah, so Rolling Heights. Rolling Heights is a city building push your luck engine buildish game. So those are your high level hot button words. The highlights are the engine building is it's a push your luck system using meeple rolling, which if you're familiar with Cubitos, it uses a similar, though not the same, sort of set of rules around pushing your luck. But instead of dice, it's meeples, and the meeples will either land flat on their side or standing and give you different bonuses based on standing or sideways. And flat counts as a miss. And you can keep pushing your luck as long as you don't get your entire roll landing flat. But then what you're doing with those rolls is completely different than Cubitos. So that's where the analogy ends. And in Rolling Heights, your city building, so your meeples will give you resources in the form of little Lego-like cubes, which you'll then use to buy new building plans. That is sort of a tile that you put onto a main board, and then those building plans have buildings that you construct on them using the Lego-like cubes. And essentially, as you play the game, as you build these buildings, the city actually grows both two-dimensionally and three-dimensionally into like a little city diorama. And of course, that's where all the strategy is. It's around what buildings do you build, where do you build them, what are your opponents doing, do you want to be adjacent to them in certain areas, how much do you push your luck to try to get your buildings done faster, to ramp up your engine. When you finish buildings, you either get new meeples or you get victory points, usually some combination of the both, and the meeples will build your engine. The points are obviously for winning. And yeah, that's it. That's about it. So it's you'll recognize some parts from a lot of other city building games with the tile placement and stuff. But there's some pretty different stuff going on. It's not like anything else I've designed, probably, except in the push your luck of Cubitos. But again, that's the only part of this game that's very similar to Cubitos, is how you push your luck. And everything else is different. So I think that's a good rundown, hopefully.
That is a good rundown. I mean, imagine that I am a meeple and I am being rolled into the game. If I land standing on my head, that means I'm doing one thing. If I land on my side, it means I'm doing something else. And if I land standing up, it means I'm working hard. If I'm laying down, I'm being lazy and I'm not doing my job.
Welcome to the greatest special effects treat you'll see this year. It's basically like a Marvel movie. It's just the whole thing. Hey, Ryan, why don't we go ahead and start this? I know some people are waiting for the launch, and then we can talk over stuff while we're doing other stuff. Is that all right?
Yep, I'm going to click the big red button. Here we go. We're launching the Kickstarter right now. Kickstarter is going to tell us to be good people while we do this, and then we're going to launch. And takes a second or two. We're reloading. All right, the project is live. Very cool.
Awesome. Now you can stop listening for 5 seconds, go back, and then come back and hear all of the coolness.
I think people can do both at the same time.
You're right.
Listen, it's not like they can't open another tab. Or,
Hey, I have a question for John and Josh here. So explain the difference and how you guys work together on this game. Because what John, you work and you make the game design, and then Josh, you're the developer on the game. What does that look like to people outside of our little hole? Like, we know what we do, but
Yeah,
how do you guys split up?
Yeah, so basically, Josh does all the work and I get all the credit.
I too would like to sign up for this program.
No, I mean, the core game was a game I worked on probably starting in 2018, I think, 2019. I guess it was 2018. Yeah. Worked on it for a while, pitched it to John Zinzer, as at that time we were gaming together all the time. So it wasn't even so much a pitch as like, this is just a game I'm playtesting and now you're here to play games with me. And then I worked on it for a while. John, you guys essentially put it on the schedule to publish. And at that point needed to find a developer to work on. And Josh jumped on board.
I mean, I remember that as Josh jumping on a grenade. I mean, listen, you're, traditionally, hard to work with there, John.
Yeah. So the game was not done at that point, right? In terms of the gameplay and rules and stuff. And obviously it was just a prototype. So there was, my Adobe Illustrator, placeholder stuff on it. So at that point, Josh took on a much bigger role. He was doing play testing in addition to my play testing, and sometimes we play test together. We'd have conversations about balancing the city tiles. Probably some of the biggest conversations were around getting the bonus tiles right, because how balancing those was kind of important, right? In how hard they are. Yeah. So there's multiple ways to score in Rolling Heights. One of the big ways to score is getting two different types of bonus tiles. You have you have private ones, which are called targets, and you start the game with two of them, and you actually have the whole game. And at the end, you score whichever one scores more. And then there's three public bonuses that are called advertisements, and everyone can score every one of them. And paying attention to all four of these things is beneficial. Sometimes they're contradictory, and you have to pick which one you're going to do instead of another one, right, or something like that. So a lot of conversations Josh and I had about that. And then then there's all the development conversations that happened also. I'll let Josh jump in. I could ramble on about that as well, but the development stuff is where Josh really gets in a lot about how the look of the game is and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that a couple of I would say that that's a good explanation of how like the gameplay works. Back at that time we had the Larkstone house and we were going there and playing a bunch, and
Hey Josh, were roads still part of the game when you started the development work, or had I already knocked those out? So they were, right? Yeah.
So there used to be roads in the game, and a lot of your goals were about these
about the roads. Yeah.
And then then that became a little too important for things, and it ended up there was like a lot of blocking things. There was also a lot more ways to get negative points, and so I think a lot of that was what got trimmed out. But mostly it was the gameplay kind of was able. It was such a good solid system that it was a lot of like trimming the fat rather than being like, oh, well, we had to like add things and spices into the game. I would say though what a lot of the development was for me was a lot of the production. There's just a lot of things you have to consider when you're talking about stacking cubes, and
we had quite a few conversations.
The thickness of the meeple was going to be correct because your prototype was wood meeples, but we kind of wanted to go all plastic because of the building tiles are going to be plastic. And then it's like, well, now these are going to roll differently.
And it's like
You know,
crucial that they don't have like a seam in them, right? If you're rolling them like dice, like a lot of plastic meeples, they'll have like a little like seam in them, kind of.
right.
So it's crucial that we got that right.
Right. And then I remember our first sample of meeples.
We're too
They
thin.
were, they were the ones that had those little sharper point. There's kind of two standard meeple shapes in my mind. The one with a little bit sharper points to them, and then the one that's a little bit more round and flowing. And the round and flowing ones are the ones that actually like land. In fact, my prototype copy is still my clear meeples are still the pointy ones. So I have to sub in other meeples for when I was doing the solo play testing, because I was like, I don't want that to affect the rolls, because it seriously did. I remember when we got that first setback, everyone was like, I can't build anything. It's so hard. Less of my, I have to roll like 7 times just to get to the point where I have to push my luck. And then once I get to that point, I definitely don't want to try to push my luck because it was too hard to roll the meeples. So that was, definitely a challenge of going back and forth on that. And, I was lucky that I got to work with Kwanchai. He is kind of local to the LA area, and he came out and he kind of was, hungry to work on an AEG game. And I remember he played Rolling Heights and Santa Monica that day, and he was like, I want to work on Rolling Heights. And I was like, it was a little bit of a punch to the gut, but because I was like, I guess I'll work with you in this other way. In fact, it's possible that I wasn't even the developer on Rolling Heights at that time, and then I kind of was like, I went to John Zinzer and said, all right, now I got to be the developer on Rolling Heights.
It was right around then.
Kwanchai, at least in one way.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Kwanchai is the artist that is used in the game, and he is extraordinarily well known for what are some of his biggest titles there, Josh? I know I'm not sure who picks the artist for the games that we work on.
Usually the developer does. I mean,
okay.
I know that in a way he did, but I know I was really I really wanted to get him to come out to the house. I've always been a big fan of his work. He is famous for the Kodama series. Dinosaur Island obviously is a huge game of his, and I tell you, he does a lot of work in this industry, and every project, he definitely is one of the most seasoned artists I have ever worked with. When it was time for him to do sketches, I usually just get sketches, and the artist is like, I hope you like these because I don't really want to do a lot of edits. But Kwanchai was very much a guy who said to me, oh, I want to go with this. I was reading all these architectural books, and he was showing me images from the early 1900s, because we had to even pick out what time period, and he did like a lot of research on it. And I'm a big fan in trusting artists, and it was easy with Kwanchai because he was very super professional about getting the look of the game right. And yeah, it was awesome to work with him.
As a boring marketing guy, I very much enjoyed all the little sort of vignettes in the art, like people carrying stuff, a mom with their kid, right? They've been really fun to use in the campaign, and they really give the game a sense of place. It doesn't feel like a fantasy place, it feels like a place. And,
it's weird how the world actually feels very realistic. One of my favorite things on the cover is how the road kind of slants up so you can see kind of like more of the city in a way. And so you got kind of this like folding city, and it still feels very nice and real. But it is also it kind of got this nice element of play to the game, because we wanted the game to have a nice a real world feeling, but also be very playful, because at the end of the day, you are rolling meeples. But we didn't want to be like silly and make like a game where we're like, roll them meeples. So I think we got a good balance, because the game is it's a nice weight of a game where you can like all John Clair games, they have this nice mix of very simple ideas, but with enough like kind of elements to kind of make you exercise new parts of your brain.
Yeah, I was reading one of the reviews today that just got published today, and they did such a good job of saying, so it's a game the first time you play it, you know what you're playing. But the second time I played it, I scored 60 points from tiles, from the advertising tiles, because they just really focused on it. And I love how John's games you can get better at, but the first play isn't difficult. A lot of games that have high-end play also have a high barrier to start. And I feel like so many of John's games are like, oh, this game's really fun. And then you get crushed by John in a playtest, like, oh, there's more going on here. I'm talking about Dead Reckoning in particular.
John
what is happening to me?
John certainly is not
you want to get
afraid.
better. It's great.
John certainly is not afraid to show you the power of his games when he plays with you the first time. Like you'll sit down and play with him and you'll be like, wow, did I just lose by 100 points? That was fun, but I want to do what John's
have to enjoy the play of the game and not worry about who wins or loses.
I will say, I think the hardest thing about developing a John Clair game is that sometimes you have to try to convince him that a certain strategy is not good enough in the game. And he'll be like, yeah, but I've won with that strategy. And I'm like, okay, I know you've won with that strategy, but most people can't win with that strategy.
All right, Ryan, what's going on in our list of things?
Okay, the FAQ has been posted. Some initial messaging has been posted to various groups and places. Some graphics are being changed. And I am right now going through and sending out messages to Board Game Geek and Reddit and a few things like that. But I am keeping my eye on the total, which is getting closer and closer to the objective of the campaign.
Yep, we're at.
I know that you have a bunch of stuff you have to do, and then magic number happens. So I don't want to get in the way of that.
Yes. So the team involved to do a Kickstarter is a lot bigger than just what it used to be. So we've got everyone on this call; they've all been involved. We have Vlad and our whole social media team involved. We've got Jay, who's our in-house graphic artist who worked on all the ads, and he is waiting to update a bunch of graphics based on funding of the campaign. There's just a lot of things to go on a launch day to make it look smooth. A lot of work that goes in beforehand, a lot of work. Here's my question for John Zinzer here. What made you want to publish this game for AG? Like, what was about this game that you said, that's the game that we want to do?
So when John gets a game ready to show to design to publishers, his games are usually in very, very good shape. So when you play a game, you get a very quick feeling for whether you think that it's a new experience, it's got an addictive gameplay to it. And it was very easy to see the end result of this product because the prototype gave you a good picture of what the final game would look like and what you were doing during the game. While not finished, it was very easy to see where the game was going to end up. So it was an easy game for us to say that for me to say that we wanted to do.
Yeah, not all games. Like I remember back in the olden days when we would pitch games, they would be slips of paper with hand scribbled notes on them. And
the way we got pitch smash up was scratch notes on paper that Hall had cut up before he came to Gammon. It's like, look, you take these two decks and you put them together, and you couldn't shuffle it because it was on. It was so funny. The world has definitely changed. And speaking of the world changing, now that we have funded, congratulations, we've hit our number.
I quit. I'm done.
I am actually off. I'm driving down to Orlando. I'm in Florida, so I've got a follow-up meeting with some game designers who showed me games the other night. So I'm going to go play those games and
all right,
see where we end up. So good job, guys. Well done.
All right, should we wrap up? I got to go update some graphics, so I'm going to bug out.
Sure.
Is there more to go on? Any final words from anybody?
Nope. Just happy that we are live and the Kickstarter is funded. And thanks to John Clair for making another amazing game, and to Josh and everybody who worked on the AEG side to bring it to life.
Yep. Well done, everybody.
Great.
Awesome.
We are
Well.
out. See you later, guys, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.